My experience working at Barnes& and Nobles, the probably biggest, I guess, book-wise corporation in America. I personally can't think of another um, business as big book-wise as Barnes& and Nobles. My time working there, well, it wasn't all bad, right? It wasn't all bad. There was a lot of good moments. There was a lot of good perks. The discount was amazing. Out of all the jobs I worked at, that place literally will give, I don't know if it's still true, but when I was working there, it gave like the biggest discounts compared to any other place I've ever worked at. And you got to sit there and borrow the books. I wasn't really a book person, I was more of a graphic novels comic fan, but you got to borrow those too, which I thought was pretty cool. Um, For the majority of it, it wasn't a very complex, convoluted job, right? It's pretty basic. So I enjoyed that part. I consider myself a people person, so I always enjoy interacting with like new faces and things of that nature. I thought that that was pretty fun. And for the first couple of years of working there, I had a lot of fun for the most part. For just working at a quote unquote retail job, it was pretty fun. But then, like everything, business evolved and things of that nature, and the business started to change, right? And there was things I just didn't like about working there. You know, because every year they have like these meetings and stuff like that, these mandatory meetings, which I'm so not a fan of those. Um, but in one segment, there was Nithya talking about how you know back in the day they used to sit there and have borders. And one of the I guess the founders or corporate persons or whatever was like, the difference between us and Borders is that we will we won't have you sitting there doing a bunch of different jobs, right? Because what it comes down to is quality. They rather have the right people doing the right thing and just doing that. And it's not so much they was like, you couldn't sit there and do other different jobs like barista and cashier and customer service and things of that nature. But they was like they want people to sit there and be good at that job. Instead they try and do four jobs, which they're just gonna wind up sucking at. That was their motto. But then they made it where it was mandatory that you had to sit there and do these different aspects of the job. And I'm like, okay, but when I apply for the job or whatever, and I apply for cashiering and things of that nature. I didn't apply to sit there and be a barista, but then they practically would force you to do that. Also, wasn't a huge fan of the pay, right? Because I really did feel like the baristas actually they work so. There was times I felt like they worked so much more harder than some of the other aspects of the store and the job, but yet they're getting the same pay. And I'm like, this is insane. Now, with most of these type of jobs, especially retail and stuff like that, it's about sales. And this was a very focus driven kind of salesman kind of job, which I don't have a problem with to an extent, but the way that they sit there and do it would come across as so aggressive and so just manipulating people. And they would sit there and always talk about how we would have to the way we just have to sit there and try to sell these membership cards. Just get benefits after benefits after benefit after benefit. And it's like, if somebody says no, that's the end of the discussion. Like, they don't need a 5 to 7 minute speech on why it's important for them to sit there and buy something if they say no. You know, like their sales tactics were super aggressive, and it was like, I can see why most people just buying their stuff online. They don't want to sit there and have to deal with being basically harassed at this point for just getting a newspaper or coffee or whatever. Hell, even when they sit there and try to get people to collect emails, it was like they would literally sit there and tell us, say, give me your email, and I'm like, give me your email. Are you kidding me? You understand how rude that is to sit there and start demanding stuff from people? But that was part of their sales tactic. And then if you didn't, because they had a quota, like every job or whatever, they had a quota, but like, they wouldn't sit there and give you a raise if you didn't meet your quota as far as memberships. Which I'm just like, I don't know if that's legal. I don't know if that's legal for them, or I know most places like that's just insane to sit there and not get a raise, but that's what they would do. And that made sense to them. Now, all in all, it's my whole thing is like when people sit there, people that love books, I remember I used to always sit there and have some new people come in like, oh, I love books so much, and I'm just like, y'all sit there and think like once I get that job, you're just gonna come in here and just start reading all day. Like that's not how that works. um and I felt like there were certain people that really thought like that too. It's like, oh, I just love reading books and stuff like that, and it's like, yeah, that's not, I mean, that's cool and everything like that. That's a cool hobby for you, but that has nothing to do with what we do. Um, I haven't worked there in years, and it's really interesting the way that life works out. Because the minute I stop working there and I start working my other job, I realized that if I was still working at Barnes& Nobles, I wouldn't. My schedule for YouTube would be a lot different. It would have been a lot different. But things have a way of working out for a reason. Um, all in all, I wouldn't sit. Here's the thing. All in all, I wouldn't sit there and say it's the worst job. I wouldn't. But I don't know. All I would sit there and say is, if you're not the type of person that's like really aggressive with sales and stuff like that, and um, if you're not that type of person, then it's probably not a good idea to work there, because they hammered that in and stressed it like no tomorrow. And I mean, by doing that, like they would actually have like the assistant manager and the bookkeepers and stuff like that have these little monthly meetings and go over quotas. And I don't know, personally, sometimes whenever I was working there, I felt like, and I know this is gonna sound like an insult, but it's like I felt like they felt like they were more important than what they actually were. You know, like they thought they were more important than, let's say, a supermarket. You need food. You don't need books. You would like to have a book. Um, you may need a specific book for a class, but even with those, that's what they actually have campus bookstores for. But just as far as them, now again, I'm not gonna sit there and say it was all bad. I don't know if they still do it. I'm assuming that they do. They used to sit there and have different celebrities and stuff like that come in for like book signings and stuff. I met Hillary Duff and some other people. Um, I met Guy, the cooking person or whatever. So it wasn't all bad. It wasn't all bad. But I don't know. All I was sitting and say is if you're not really good at sales, or you don't feel like you could be like really aggressive with sales, then it's probably not the type of job for you. But if you like that stuff and you do like books, because like I said, you do you do get one hell of a discount. I would sit there and say that much. Then I guess it's for you. But that's just my experience as far as working at Barnes& and Nobles. Now, if you ever worked at Barnes& and Nobles, let me know. What was your experience like? Do you still work there? Um, Let me know in general. Let me know in the comment section. Anyway, I want to thank you for watching. Stay safe. I'll see you in the next video.